Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators' elite stars are no match for the Montreal Canadiens' third line.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We have lots to talk about today. The Montreal Canadiens are back in the mix by beating the Ottawa Senators. But first, I got to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. You know, it's not 50% as the Habs effort in tonight's game. My name is Lars Haba, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian, to break this down. And Christian Dvorak had 4 points. Ottawa, what are you doing? You should be ashamed of yourself.
That is a stat line that I don't think the Senators should ever be able to live down. Don't get me wrong. Christian Dvorak was incredible in this game. Like I don't know how Christian Dvorak would accidentally get 4 points, but that's not what happened. He very much was a very dominant player for the Canadiens in this. But that whole line was, I cannot wait to talk about this game, Laura. It was so much fun. We're so back.
We are so back. The Canadiens are back in the mix. And again, that was kind of a joke about Christian Dvorak. Since the trade deadline, he's been really, really good. In fact, even before that, since the Four Nations, I would say he's been really, really good. But we're gonna talk about him and the rest of that line in our second period because we want to give them a lot of airtime to do them justice. Let's start with the game as a whole. I thought that almost everybody performed really well in that game. We were expecting shenanigans. We got them right away. But then, you know, it kind of settled and the Senators refused to quit. But at the same time, what I saw was that they were fairly quiet in terms of the players that you're expecting a lot from. They were fairly quiet in terms of the players whose names you rarely hear. You heard them a lot this game, right? So Montreal was able to really confuse, stifle, whatever it is, Ottawa. And like, you know, I put it up on the side there. They really understood the assignment tonight.
Yeah, I think that built throughout the game, right? I think they had a great start with Dvorak getting that breakaway goal. Again, a sentence that is hilarious. They got a great start, and then I think the moment kind of got the better of them for a little bit. They looked nervous. The puck wasn't sitting flat on their stick. They were hesitating to make plays. It just seemed like they were playing nervous. They weren't playing poorly, but it felt like they understood the gravity of the situation and how important this was for this team, for that building, for that city. And I think, you know, that allowed the Sens to kind of just chip away because the Sens didn't have much going. I mean, Stützle was very quiet, as was Brady Tkachuk. Giroux was pretty quiet. Ridley Greig didn't try his normal Ridley Greig things. You know, they had goals from Michael Amadio and Travis Hamonic. You know, that's not a murderer's row of guys that you're really worried about. But I thought that they went into the third down a goal, and I was wondering what they were going to show us, and what they showed us is that they wanted that game way more than Ottawa did. They just did. They went out there and they took the game away from Ottawa with 5 goals in the third period. I mean, that's you couldn't have drawn that up the way that played out. And they got led by vets. The vets on this team put the team on their back while the top line was getting, for what it's worth, hard line matched against Ottawa. Ottawa was not giving them any space to operate, rightfully so. I thought Slav was especially nervous early on. Third period Slav, though, he was better. Maybe second half Slav is a thing also in games. Have we thought about that? That like first, whatever. First, second period, fine. But third period, locked in.
Yeah. I did think he was having a rough game overall. It did get better towards the end. I was a little bit worried about that line, and then, you know, like you mentioned, they were being hard matched, so it was definitely a tougher assignment. But Nick Suzuki managed to score anyway. And right.
And what was funny about Suzuki's goal was it was a power play goal. It was their 4th power play of the game where they really had nothing
a second
going
left or something.
And he was only out there on the second unit because he's being double shifted on every power play. And the first unit had nothing going. And I was wondering, and I should have said something about it at the time, but I was like, this feels like exactly the time when the second unit would step on it, score a goal. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That was Nick Suzuki, and give Brendan Gallagher a ton of credit for going into the scrum in front of the net and coming out with the puck. It felt very much like do you remember the game against Ottawa? This was the Francis Bouillon goal. Remember when they came back and they tied the game and they won? Yeah, they won it in overtime or something, like very late in the game, and Robin Lehner lost his mind. It kind of felt like that goal with like the intensity way down in that game, but it felt very similar.
Absolutely. And I think like that's the thing. You were talking about how some of the Canadians felt the gravity of the moment and they had like a lot of nerves. When was the last time we had the moment? Right?
Yeah.
When was the last time things were this important? And again, like this is no guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs. It's going to be a very, very tight race. And also, I just want to point out, there's no guarantee Ottawa is going to make the playoffs either. Like these are the two teams right now sitting in the wild card spots today. All of that could change tomorrow, the day after, all of that. But I do take exception because somebody on the TSN broadcast, I can't remember who, said that Ottawa was the hottest team in the NHL. I disagree. Montreal is the hottest team in the NHL. Like if you look at it, they're probably both like really hot right now.
Yeah.
I felt that the Montreal Canadiens came in understanding why this is more important, why this is important more than the Ottawa Senators did. And I think that what I really, really appreciated about it is that not everything went perfectly, right? Like Samuel Montembeault was nervous. I don't know what was wrong with him.
No, there was nothing wrong with him. That's just what he does. Like, and I love Sammy because he'll make that amazing glove save in close, and then Travis Hamonic takes a slap shot that wouldn't have even gone in like the 1940s, and it somehow gets behind Montembeault. Never left the ice, Laura. It stayed on the. He was just he was essentially shooting it just so they could get a change. I think that's all that was happening. And Sam let in a goal. We can laugh about it now, but remember, I talked about this a while ago. I think he was like 9th in the league in average distance for each goal.
Yeah,
like
it's getting bigger and bigger.
This is a thing for him. He gives up long range opportunities, and they need to figure out a way to limit those because I don't think that's going to be something in his game he can fix. We've seen it forever.
I think he also just kind of underestimates people a lot, right? Like Travis Hamonic, like you're not expecting him to score, but you kind of should. Yeah. You're the goalie.
You gotta. It's an NHL player, regardless of how bad of an NHL player he is. He's still an NHL player.
Right? They're putting him on the ice for a reason. And so that was tough. And Slavkovsky's like, for me, it was most of the game that was tough. Like, yes, he did kind of tighten it up, but in the third period, I was still kind of shaking my head at him a little bit. But there were so many positives. They're just there, and I think there's like it feels unfortunate to only have 30 minutes to talk about this game because somebody is going to get shortchanged on the praise that they deserve, right?
Yeah, no, it's a tough. This is a tough assignment for us. I'm looking at the clock and I'm seeing the number go up. There's no way we're going to have enough time to talk about how, like Patrick Laine, who I think had a really good game, despite not finding the score sheet in this one.
Someone was like, "He's old, but he's so good." I'm like, "He's not even old. He just skates like he's old. He's very young.
He just has a bum knee, which he got tripped. He got tripped and drew that penalty, and for a second it looked awful. Like he was just kind of splayed out on the ice, and I was like, "Oh no, we just lost Laine for the rest of the year." No, and he just got right back up and was there on the power play.
He's just gangly like that. He's just awkward.
Yeah, yeah. I just think but I thought he was great. I thought he had a really strong night, especially on the playmaking. And we have to give him an honorable assist on the first goal because he took a shot that knocked Linus Ullmark's stick out of his hand. And Christian Dvorak is able to go in on the breakaway. Mike Johnson made a great point on the TSN broadcast by saying he knows he doesn't have a stick, so he can stick handle right up to the goalie and not be afraid that he's going to poke check him. Exactly. So honorable assist to Patrick Laine for just with a wrist shot knocking a stick out of a goal. It went flying. Like I've never seen that before.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see anyone that you weren't happy with in this game?
It's funny because he had an assist on the first goal, but Savard, I mean, that's just kind of going to be a thing. It's not so much that the totality of his game was bad. It's moments. It's moments where he gets beat where he shouldn't get beat. And I know it's because he's not fleet of foot anymore. But
the first Ottawa goal,
him and Xhekaj, but Xhekaj's covering another guy on the wing, and Savard is trying to cover his guy on the wing as well. But Slavkovsky is back checking to him. Savard needed to step up and make a play on Batherson there, and he just didn't. His gap control is bad. He never turns around because I just don't think he can do it fast enough. It's No, it's just this is the player we have now, right? Like, this is the version of David Savard that will be that will have the rest of the year, and it's not that's a depreciating asset at this point. But yeah,
Unfortunate, but
other than him,
understandable.
we said Slav. He looked nervous. He looked like the moment got the better of him for a lot of it. But third period, I thought he was great. So at least he stepped up.
What I always think about Slav too is that like next year he's going to be more grown up, right? So whatever issues that we have with him, a lot of time it can be chalked up to immaturity, right?
Yeah.
Inexperience, immaturity.
He's not even 21 yet.
Right, exactly. So he's going to grow up, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I look at that and I feel the urge to kind of criticize either his nerves or trying to do too much or mistakes or whatever it is, I just think about him like he's going to grow up, right?
If he didn't feel nerves in moments like this, I'd be worried.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is the first meaningful game he's played in Montreal since he got here.
I feel like Ivan Demidov next year is going to be like cool as a cucumber in moments like this.
And Lane Hutson is, right? Like, Lane Hutson doesn't ever look like the moment gets the better of him. But Slav, I think he has a lot of pressure on himself. He always puts a lot of pressure on himself. And that's where that comes from, right? He wants to perform. Yeah. And those moments get the better of him sometimes. But he's 20. We got to relax. He'll be fine.
He's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. The Montreal Canadiens beat the Ottawa Senators to get back into a playoff spot. In our next segment, we are going to joyfully talk about the third line. We've said some nice things about them, some not so nice things about them this season, but tonight, I think it might have been their best game of the year. That's coming up in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. We were the beneficiaries of that because we ended up going to a game together in Buffalo a few weeks ago. Game Time Picks was there for us. And I just checked the Game Time app. There's so many amazing deals with some huge matchups coming up. Game Time Picks even highlights the super deals, which will give you the best bang for your buck. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Monarch is just so easy to use, and it makes you realize, like I was spending so much on food delivery, cabs, all kinds of little conveniences like that. But thanks to Monarch Money, I budget smarter and I save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, plan your long-term financial goals, and managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right. It's time to say some nice things about some people that we might not always have said nice things about, such as Christian Dvorak or Josh Anderson. This year, we've been very nice to Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. But in previous years, we were not so much nice to these people. They had a phenomenal game tonight. I think, I feel like we were expecting Brendan Gallagher's dad strength to come up like a few games before it actually did. I think when they officially announced it is when his dad's strength kind of kicked in, right?
Yeah.
Like he's been really, really good lately. And Christian Dvorak really, I felt, was all like in everyone's face that game. He was all over the place. He was fast. He was in the right positions at the right times. He capitalized. He controlled. He did so good. And I felt like Josh Anderson, the Josh Anderson I saw in this game was the same Josh Anderson that you saw against Vegas in their playoff run in 2021, right? You were just like, this guy knows what he needs to do. I can't say enough about this line.
Yeah, look, I also want to put something on the record about Christian Dvorak. First of all, we saw him score a 2-point. He had a 2-point game against Buffalo. We were there in person, so
It's
there's
real.
that. And second, I remember a long time ago on this show. A long time ago is subjective. It was earlier this season where I went through the leaders in expected goal by percentage at all of the players who are regulars on this team, and Dvorak was at the top of the list. And he does a lot of things that, lower six players need to be able to do. He, he wins faceoffs. They use him as a faceoff man almost exclusively later on in the game. But he's a very effective center. No, he's not going to score 4 points all the time. Most of the time, he won't get one, and that's fine. Like, we're not expecting that line to be that potent offensively. It helps when they're playing against Linus Ullmark, who is an excellent elite goalie in this league, who the Canadiens make him look human. He came into he now has an .819 save percentage against the Canadiens this season. His save percentage in the game we just saw increased it. He went in as like a .720 against the Canadiens. Like, he's been horrible against Montreal, which is just so bizarre because he's a really good goalie, right?
Yeah.
Like, the Canadiens make Ullmark look like Jonas Korpisalo. Like, it's kind of wild that the Sens got this guy and Montreal's just kind of picked him apart. That line is they do a job. That's their calling card. Them and the fourth line with Evans, Heineman, and Armia. But they do a job. The job is get the puck in deep, go to work.
Yeah.
They all of those lines try to do that to a certain extent, but none of them are more effective than those bottom six lines. And tonight, that Dvorak line was superb at it. Like, they gave Ottawa fits all night, which is just, if Christian Dvorak is doing that, if doing that to you to the tune of 4 points, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, that's wild. Probably shouldn't let that happen if you're an NHL team trying to make the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there.
I do want to say, somebody, I think it might have been Andrew Berkshire of Game Over Montreal, or the Game Over Network as a whole. Our friends there. Hi. He said something about Josh Anderson's redemption arc. I think it's just, I feel like when Josh Anderson was drafted, when Josh Anderson was playing in Columbus, when Josh Anderson got traded to Montreal, like, nobody was expecting any of this out of Josh Anderson. It turns out that this is like the best version of him.
Yeah, he's a renaissance man.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, and this won't get a lot of play in other markets, right? But he should be, if there was, I know in the NBA they have the most improved player award.
Yeah.
If that happened in the NHL, Josh Anderson would have to be very high up on that list.
Absolutely.
I mean, just the way he's turned his game around, we all know he's dealing with some kind of injury and just fighting through it. And it's making him stronger, like Red Eyes Jeff Petrie. But like, he's an effective penalty killer now. Who would have thought that years ago? Last year? Who would have thought that a year ago from today that Josh Anderson would be an effective penalty killer? They would have said, what, in Laval? No, like he's great in the NHL at penalty killing. He also should draw way more penalties than he actually does.
But the refs hate him because he's handsome.
The refs hate him because he's handsome. But look, he did draw one that ended up supplying the game-winning goal from Nick Suzuki, so got to give it to them there. But the refs were the refs were horrific in this game. We talk about the Canadiens playing to the moment. The referees absolutely did not. They misinterpreted their assignment from the start of this game.
They had one job and they didn't do it.
One job.
But back to Josh Anderson. I think it's really funny. I want to be in that meeting where someone, I don't know who it was, decided that they should try him on the penalty kill. I want to be in that meeting where either he volunteered for it or someone told him he had to do it. Like, I want to know. I want that sequence of events. I hope that there were cameras and then we see it in a documentary or something. Because, like, how did that even happen?
It's hysterical. I don't know who thought of that. Does it seem like Marty did that?
I have no idea.
The other coaches well enough to be like, oh, it was Trevor Letowski. I don't know what Trevor Letowski's opinions on things are.
Or did it come from Josh Anderson being like, I want to kill penalties now? Like,
let's give it a shot. Like, well, I don't know. It could work. And it does work. He's completely reinvented himself as a player. I know people always bring up the contract. I don't care. It's not hampering the Canadiens at this point, and he's providing exceptionally important play to a line that this team needs. in order to be able to do what they want to do, right? Marty wants to be able to roll all those guys, and they can because of Josh Anderson and Christian Dvorak and Brendan Gallagher playing at the level they are.
Yes, absolutely. So one more guy. We did briefly talk about him, Brendan Gallagher. What has gotten into him this season? I have no idea. But it is phenomenal.
Do you remember earlier this year where he was on like a 30-goal pace? He just kept putting the puck in the net. I mean, then, he regressed to the mean for sure. But I've loved his play. He's playing like a guy who knows what it takes to get to the playoffs and what it feels like to play in the playoffs in this city. And he wants it more than anybody else on the ice. It's really incredible to watch. Super glad that he scored a goal. And, after the birth of his child, that's always one of the coolest moments you can get out of sports. So savor those when you can get them. Very cool for Gallagher.
He's living the dad life now. After having a dad hairline for many, many years. I did not think that. We haven't even touched on Jake Evans, but we're going to have to talk about him in our final segment, where we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics ever, and that is Lane Hutson, and that's all coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is also brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, let's talk about Jake Evans real quick, because he hit a milestone and that almost got lost in the rest of all the good things that happened in this game.
Yeah, so much, including the guy we're going to talk about after Jake Evans having a, to this point, career-defining moment. But Jake Evans hits 30 points for the first time in his career. Contract year Jake Evans, I'm hoping, is just regular Jake Evans from now on. Like, I hope that we have this kind of player. He's not going to score at the rate that he did earlier this year, where I think, what was it, like 5 straight games he had a goal.
Yeah.
He was a big part of the Canadiens' like post-holidays run to relevance.
Run to relevance. I like that.
Yeah, we're just trying to add to the vernacular here. Marty has the mix. I'll do run to relevance. That's my thing now. But yeah, look, I mean, he's a guy that it's impossible not to cheer for. Like, he's a 7th round draft pick coming out of the NCAA. He was a long shot to be where he is now. And now he's one of the premier checking line forwards in the National Hockey League. You love to see it from a guy like Jake Evans.
Homegrown guy.
Yeah. One of the Bergevin era's sole Laval graduates. Like, they didn't do that with a lot of players. People were like, "Oh, Artturi Lehkonen, he never played in the American Hockey League.
No,
he never touched Laval, never touched St. John's. It never happened."
Yeah.
Jake Evans, great game.
Lane Hutson time.
Yes. So
It's
they go
always
into
Lane
the
Hutson
third.
time.
Yes, it's always time to be on the Lane train. The Canadiens go into the third period down by a goal. They're down 2-1. Jake Evans wins the faceoff. Hey, there's the connection there. And Hutson just decides, I'm actually taking the game over now. He grabs the puck at the blue line, and he just kind of walks his way down the ice, because the Senators decide to just give this guy who they know can shuffle all of the room in the world. And he beats Linus Ullmark with one of the prettiest shots we've seen from him so far. He is starting to fire the one-timer a lot, which I love. Eventually he's going to get one that looks so silly, and I cannot wait for it to happen. But yeah, that's his, what is that, 53rd point for Lane Hutson, making it 12 to pass Chris Chelios for rookie defenseman season scoring. It's such a baseball stat. I have such a hard time like explaining what that stat is, but everybody knows what I mean. He's trying to pass Chelios, who's a Hall of Famer, by the way. The dude just rules. He waited for his moment to take over this game, and he found it. He wasn't trying to do that every shift. He's really grown into his role and knowing when he can do that and when it's just smarter to chip the puck or do the long flip that he loves to do. That's resulted in some rushes coming off of guys who you wouldn't really expect. He recognized a moment and he created a moment for himself, which again, like these are the guys that you dream about having on your team. These guys that can recognize a moment where they know my skill is going to power us through this. And Hutson just, I mean, he broke the game. He broke the game over in that shift. Now, did Sam Montembeault give up the Hamonic goal moments later? Yes. But it didn't matter. Like the Canadiens ended up rebounding. They didn't allow that to ruin their night. But yeah, that was what did you think of that Hutson moment and really the rest of his game on Tuesday night?
I was just thinking about something, but let me just talk about the moment first. Honestly, like to me, that's where he showed that he's going to be elite, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be elite. 2-3 years from now, maybe hopefully even next year. Nick Suzuki's not the only one going to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
It's
well, that's if the All-Star game happens. The NHL's thinking about canceling it, but
whatever happens, like if he'll be chosen as an All-Star, right? Like back in the day, they didn't have an All-Star game; they just announced All-Stars.
Yeah, he'll be on the All-Rookie team at the end of the year.
Yeah, and so what I was thinking about was early, when I don't know if it was after the rookie game, I don't know if it was like during the preseason, but people were knocking his skating. Have you noticed that once? Have you noticed that being a problem once?
No. And I think people want him to be like straight line speed like Alex Newhook, and he's not. His edge work is incredible, and that's what allows him to like skate along the blue line with like a hair in between the puck going out of the zone and staying in. I don't know, like his skating is not something anybody should be concerned about with Lane Hutson. How many times do we see him turn the puck over trying to create something at the blue line and turn around and break up the play going back the other way? It happens regularly. Like it's not, he has NHL speed. It's slightly above average NHL speed, especially for a defenseman who doesn't have as big of a stride as say like, I don't know, like Jaden Struble has a much bigger stride. Dude, the guy just rules. It's so exciting to have a player like this who like we're thinking about how this team, develops and builds into a contender. And hoping that we get a lot of moments like the one we got against Linus Ullmark. Like how many times over the course of a season do we see Cale Makar do something where it's like, wow, that's going to be on the highlight reels for the next 10 years. It seems like a bi-weekly occurrence for him.
Yeah.
Hoping that's something we get out of Lane Hutson, because that would just be excellent to get out of a second round pick they got for Brett Kulak, which will always be funny.
Thanks, Brett Kulak. He did a lot of good here.
He was great. It's not, it's not a stick it to Brett Kulak thing. It's just wild that that's what happened. He
was definitely like Jordan Harris or Jonathan Kovacevic, in which he was very underrated. But did a lot of things right, made very few mistakes, was very sound defensively. We love Brett Kulak. And we also thank him for Lane Hutson. All right, I think it's time for trivia, and I think this time around, Ian, you beat everybody. You shut everyone out.
I stumped you. Yeah.
Unlike Sam Montembeault.
Yeah. Insurmountable, you know what I mean? Anyway, yesterday's question was, I referenced the March 25th, 2017 game against the Ottawa Senators. That was really the last meaningful game this late in the season between those two teams. And I mentioned that Andrei Markov had 3 points, 2 goals and an assist. And I was wondering how many games did Markov score at least 3 points? We got a couple of answers, none of them correct. The answer is 9. He had 9 3-point games. 3 of them were against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And on October 23rd, 2015, in Buffalo, he had a 5-point game, a goal and 4 assists. That was the last Canadiens defenseman to score 5 points in one game. Although I think the guy we were just talking about might give him a run for that sooner rather than later. So that'd be really cool to see. Yeah,
It's going to happen. I miss Markov.
Yeah, every day I think about that guy and how like it would be really cool if he was on this team. Like if we could get prime Andre Markov and stick him on the blue line,
Yeah,
that'd be nuts.
amazing.
All right, today's question. This was Dvorak's first ever 4-point game. When was his last 3-point game? So this is the first time he's ever had 4. When was the last time he had I should not even at least 3 points. It's just 3 points because you already know he's never had this many. So when was his last game with 3 points? If you know the answer, put it in the comments, send it to us via email. You guys know how to get in touch with us. We will shout you out on the next episode of the show.
And to that end, the email address is lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. But we will also accept, answering the trivia question or sending us mailbag questions. On Instagram, it's Locked On Canadiens. On TikTok, it's Locked On Canadiens. On Bluesky, it's Locked On Canadiens. Everywhere we're posting, we're at Locked On Canadiens. We also want you to please subscribe, tell your friends, engage with this content. Because we're in for a really fun time with these Montreal Canadiens, and we really want you guys to all be along for the ride. You can find my co-host everywhere at Maybe It's Ian. You can find me at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.